Yeah, the next question is about miracles. A lot of people stumble on miracles and say this cannot be true what they read in the Bible, for example. So, are miracles even possible as a
Well,
scientist? What do
we use the word miracle in different ways. It comes from the Latin miraculum, which means something to be wondered at. So we might say of a person, it's a miracle that Fred passed his exams because he didn't do any work. Now, I'm not thinking of that kind of miracle. In the Bible, the activity of Jesus, turning water into wine, raising the dead, and his own resurrection, these are supernatural events. That is, they do not have any explanation between the normal cause and effect system that is within, that I believe God has set within the universe. And many of my atheist friends do not believe miracles in that sense are possible because they have read a famous book by David Hume, the Scottish Enlightenment philosopher, who said miracles are violations of the laws of nature. And we know the laws of nature are true, so miracles are impossible. That's a very crude version. I've dealt with this in great detail in several of my books. But you see, Hume was wrong. And it's easy to see that he was wrong. One of the greatest interpreters of David Hume was the late Anthony Flew. And not long before he died, I had an interview with him. And I asked him this question. He said, no, Hume was wrong, and I was wrong about Hume because Flew used to be an atheist, but he came to believe in God because of the language-like complexity of DNA. That's another story, but it's an important story. So uh, uh, the thing is this, and C.S. Lewis helps us here. I've learned a great deal from him. Miracles, you see, are not violations of the laws of nature. The word violation in connection with law reminds me of notices you see in the United States, particularly. If you violate a traffic law, you will be fined. Violators will be fined, that kind of thing. But you see, the law of a country, which is enforced by the police, is not the same as a law of nature. A law of nature describes what normally happens. The law of gravity will tell you that an apple dropped from a height will fall towards the center of the earth. But that doesn't stop you catching it before it hits the ground. In other words, the law will say it moves towards the center of the earth until something intervenes. Now, if you catch the apple, you're not violating a law. You're introducing something new into the system from outside. And Lewis has a marvelous illustration that I think really solves the problem. He says, suppose I'm staying in a hotel and the first night I put, let's say, $100 or euros or whatever into the drawer beside my bed. And the second night I put another 100. And the third night I put another 100. So I got 300 according to the laws of arithmetic. Now, if I wake up on the fourth morning and I find 100 euros in the drawer, I don't say the laws of arithmetic have been broken. I say that the laws of France or Romania or England have been broken because, well, how do I know that the laws of England have been broken? Because the laws of arithmetic have not been broken. 1 + 1 + 1 is still 3. And the fact that it's still 3 tells me that someone put their hand into the system and took 200 euros out. Now, that's a very simple illustration. And I wish some of my professorial colleagues could understand it because you see, what my mistake was to assume that the drawer and the hotel room were a closed system of cause and effect. But they weren't. A thief was able to come and steal 200 euros. And the mistake that people make in this whole area is to assume that the universe is a closed system of cause and effect, which of course it probably is if there's no God and you're not thinking of quantum theory and so on. But if there is a God who created the universe, he is responsible for what normally happens. But what normally happens is not a force that stops us introducing new events. And God as creator can introduce new events. And here's the interesting thing. If we did not know the laws of nature, we wouldn't recognize a miracle. If you don't know that the norm is that dead people remain dead, you wouldn't be surprised at the resurrection of Jesus. You're only surprised by it, as the disciples were, because it doesn't fit into the regularities. But it didn't happen by natural processes. It happened by God feeding his power into an open system. And that's the way I would begin to understand it. I've done a very detailed analysis of David Hume's arguments against miracle in my book, Gunning for God. The last 2 chapters are devoted to that.